But yeah, I think the most important thing when you have a lack of funds and when you're thinking about being healthy is like you have to be intentional about like your mindset and not getting so stressed out to the point where your health falls on the back burner. Because one of the easiest things to do when you don't have funds is to put your health on the back burner, because you feel like you can't afford the healthy, the health promoting foods, right? Nor do you want to exercise because I'm like in survival mode. I'm scraping, trying to get by.
Right.
But when you give in to that, it doesn't make things better. It actually makes things worse. Hey, you guys, my name's Austin, and this is the Culture of Health podcast, where we show you how different aspects of culture influence our health. On today's episode, Fantasia and I are talking about trying to maintain your health with limited funds. The conclusion we arrived at is that it's hard, really hard, because you have to stay in a positive state of mind and feed yourself real food, which seems like an uphill battle. One of the things I shared in the episode was that in some cases, it's better to fast than to eat something cheap that goes against your health goals. Because when you look at food for what it does for your body, instead of looking at it as something that'll help you feel full, it does that too, it's hard not to completely change the way you eat. Once I started looking at food in this way, I began prioritizing micronutrients in my diet and landed on something that has been a staple in my routine for several months. Including this in the morning routine allows me to feel my best and carry that energy with me throughout the rest of the day. You might have heard of it before. I'm talking about AG1 by Athletic Greens. I decided to give it a try because I'm not perfect, and sometimes I get carried away with the day. I'm not thinking about what food I should eat. I'm just trying to stop being hungry. So my options open up, and sometimes it's food that's detrimental to my health. So taking AG1 every single morning is something I enjoy because I meet many of the micronutrient requirements before my kids even get a chance to wake up. In each scoop, there are 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food source ingredients that help me feel energized and confident throughout the day. Knowing how much the body relies on the right nutrients to thrive, in some cases, it's the most important part of my day and a big part of my strategy for accepting full ownership of my health. If you want to accept full ownership of your health, now is a great time to start. Athletic Greens is offering you a 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs to go along with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/TCHP. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/TCHP. Hey, you guys, thanks so much for tuning into another episode of the Culture of Health podcast. My name is Austin. If you're a frequent listener, then you know this by now. But if you're not, that's my name and my co-host,
Fantasia.
We're married. We've been married for 20 years now. We've been through
20?
Oh, I said 20?
Yeah.
Speaking it into existence. We've been married for 10 years now, and we've been through lots of ups and downs. One of the beautiful things about that is we have always, for the most part, tried to stay healthy. And, if you're being real with yourself in your life, there have been times in your relationship where your money wasn't tight. You know what I'm saying? Or you might have been broke. And Fantasia and I can both speak from experience that when the funds are tight, it is very, very difficult to prioritize your health. It's actually one of the first things that you want to throw out of the window. So today we're going to talk to you guys about how to maintain your health even while you're broke. I don't think you like that. Say broke.
I don't. It's triggering.
How would you say that?
I don't know if I like it. And I feel like for whoever else is out there, we can reframe that phrase. Maybe experiencing hardship. Experiencing temporary hardship.
That sounds so
a setback.
politically correct.
A temporary situation.
I like that setback. Mm-hmm. When you're experiencing a financial setback. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. I think the first thing I want to talk about is the mindset that comes with being broke. Mm-hmm. You know how they say broke is a mindset. And it's not to say that being broke causes you, having a poor mindset is what causes you to be broke. But when your funds are limited, you shift into survival mode. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I know me personally, that's when I pull out the peanut butter jelly sandwiches, the anything that I can get my hands on, really, even if it's candy.
You get real creative.
It's man, I just need calories. I gotta survive. What are some of the downfalls of thinking like that?
I mean, in relation to your health,
Yeah.
or just in general.
I mean, shoot, what speaks to you the most?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna give you some credit really quickly. I'm gonna come back to that. But you are Austin is so creative when we need to. And you know what? Although I feel some type of way, maybe sometimes about the situation, I really appreciate the way that he's able to just take what it is, take the situation for what it is, and do something within his power to kind of fix the problem at the moment, which is the need to eat. You know what I'm
100%.
saying? To
Amen.
feed yourself and feed your kids or whatever. For me, on the other hand, it's hard. I just gotta go. I don't know what to do.
Fantasia will be leaving every time it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Fantasia's nowhere to be found. It's like, I got a husband who's gonna take care of this.
It's really hard. When it comes to the kids, it's hard. And so for people out there who have children and you have people relying on you and depending on you for, survival, it's hard to receive the pressure of life that you already have. Plus hearing them, Mommy, I'm hungry. Daddy, I'm hungry. And it's not like it's different, when it's like, oh, I'm hungry, I'm bored, and you have options. But when it's scarce and you got to get a little creative, that's hard. So
It is
I just
annoying.
remove myself, and the household is better for it. But coming back to the implications of experience of financial setback regarding your health, I mean I think it really depends on your mindset going into it. Like, we've experienced all ends of the spectrum, right?
Yep.
Like having an abundance of money, being comfortable, and then like just really having to get creative. We've
Yep.
experienced all of it. But I think because health is at the foundation of everything that we do, it's a little bit easier for us to make those decisions where it's like, all right, I'm not about to just eat trash all day, but I can imagine for people who may not be as aware that it's harder for them.
Right.
It's you get deeper into that hole of like, just contributing to your health negatively.
Right.
You might eat out. I mean, sometimes eating out can be expensive, but if you're getting something from McDonald's, off the dollar menu,
Yeah.
that's easy. And you're like, well, shoot, I'm fit.
Yeah.
My stomach is not rumbling anymore.
I was just thinking about that when we were in college, and I had like $5. I'm going to Burger King. I know I can get that double cheeseburger off the dollar menu, the little dollar fry. I was living off of that for, I don't know, for a long time.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is like that same amount of money that I spent on fast food in that moment, I could have went to the store and probably got some canned beans or some tuna or some ground beef.
Right.
That's one of the things we'll get into later in the podcast. But what's interesting about the mindset of being broke, like you have like a scarce mindset. So you have to hold on to everything that you got. And it doesn't matter what you're eating. It's like, as long as I feel satiated at the end of this meal, then mission accomplished.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get it. I get it. I think we all can understand that, but I think it's just, it's putting your health first. And so then you can say, okay, what can I do with what I have, that's going to support my body in the best way? You might not do that 100%, but I think the effort matters,
Right.
and I think that's one of the things that we really try hard to do, especially with our kids.
Yeah.
It's like, look, okay, if I'm running low on money, I'm not about to go to the store and buy y'all, I don't know, like the unnecessary stuff in the snacks.
The luxuries.
Well, yeah, but like your snacks, we already don't really buy snacks and chips and stuff like that anyway, but I'm going to get some fruit. I'm going to get some apples, spend $5 on a bag of apples so that when you eat it, you're actually putting something in your body that's good for you. We're going to get some bananas. Oh my gosh, bananas. I feel like when Camden was younger, he can hear me. My mom was like, why does he eat so many bananas? Ooh, he sure does like bananas. And I'm like, if you only knew, like, because it was the cheapest thing.
Yep.
And he liked them.
Yeah.
And when they're smaller, that's the blessing of having kids when they're really young. It's because sometimes they're just eating,
Yeah.
They eat a lot, but you can get creative with that too.
Right.
I used to do a lot of just activities with Camden and stuff regarding food. So it's just, you just got to remember, like, look, your number one priority is to maintain your health, because when you sacrifice when you sacrifice your health for the sake of, I don't know, of having a financial hardship. I know you're shaking your head. What?
I mean, no, it's just
It's really, really,
it's
really
just really
hard. I
hard.
know it
Yeah.
is. But if you really say, okay, I'm going to be intentional to do the best that I can, you might fall short a little bit. But it's like, I'm not going to give into the easiest thing.
Right.
Right? You know?
I think that's really the biggest thing. Is like, how do we equip people with the tools to not throw just everything like away
Yeah.
because you're struggling. And again, like if y'all can't tell by now, we know. Like we ain't speaking from no high horse. Like we get it. We've been there.
Yeah.
And sometimes, in the future, like when we have to tighten up on funds because we are entrepreneurs,
And
like
because inflation is real.
yeah,
Which is
like
crazy.
sometimes we have to do that. But yeah, I think the most important thing when you have a lack of funds and when you're thinking about being healthy is like you have to be intentional about like your mindset and not getting so stressed out to the point where your health falls on the back burner. Because one of the easiest things to do when you don't have funds is to put your health on the back burner because you feel like you can't afford the healthy, the health promoting foods, right? Nor do you want to exercise because I'm like in survival mode. I'm scraping, trying to get by.
Right.
But when you give in to that, it doesn't make things better. It actually makes things worse. And we know this not only from experience, but there are several studies to suggest that obviously lack of activity and poor food consumption, it inhibits your ability to think clearly, to have positive mindset. And those two things are necessary to make money, to get yourself out of the hole that you're in. So the first thing, if we're going to give any advice, the first thing is to shift your mindset around your lack of funds. And it's important to know which direction to go to when you don't have money. What are some of our go-to food when we're trying to we got to tighten up, but it's like we need to feed ourselves, but be healthy. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live in a world where everything was predictable? As boring as that sounds, sometimes it seems like a dream come true. Because when life throws unexpected things at you, it can be stressful, and depending on what it is, it can set you back in multiple ways, especially financially. And since we're talking about staying healthy while struggling financially, healthcare is a topic that's sometimes uncomfortable to talk about openly, especially when you're not covered. You feel irresponsible for not having health insurance coverage, which causes you to not talk about it. The problem is this. How about it? The problem is this is causing people to miss out on opportunities to be covered. Despite the passing of the Affordable Care Act, many still think you need to have a job to get affordable insurance coverage, and I'm here to tell you that's not true. As someone who doesn't have a traditional W-2 job, I can attest firsthand that you have options. Not only did I used to work as an insurance agent, but my parents have been in the business for over 30 years, and they're still insuring people to this day. Their company is called Access Benefit Consultants, and they have several agents in several states that can help you cure the shame that sometimes comes with not being covered with adequate health insurance. To explore some options and get the coverage you need, I left a link in the show notes of this podcast, or you can head over to accessbenefits.com. That's AXXESS benefits.com. So I'm not sure if you've heard or not, but there are some really interesting conversations happening around the use of certain medicines that help to suppress appetite and combat obesity. One group of people thinks we should rely heavily on diet and lifestyle changes to solve our obesity crisis, and I don't disagree. Although diet and lifestyle modifications don't always result in the changes people want to see, it's still the strongest lever you can pull, and there are diet-related ways you can decrease your appetite to support weight loss. I'm talking about fiber, resistant starch fiber to be exact. This kind of fiber acts as a prebiotic and helps the good bacteria in your gut thrive, leading to better digestion, appetite control, and better glucose control. Needless to say, it's hard to go wrong when you're intentional about getting resistant starch fiber into your diet. One way I've been able to do this is by incorporating super gut shakes into the mix. With 20 grams of prebiotic fiber and 10 grams of protein, it's a no-brainer. Here's the thing. After you drink this, you will feel full. Well, let me speak for myself. After drinking this, I'm not truly hungry again for at least 4 hours. So when we're talking about ways to suppress your appetite for better control of your eating habits, I look no further than getting more resistant starch fiber into the diet. I go with Super Gut because their shakes taste good. They're made with ingredients that I can get down with, and it's clinically proven to improve metabolic health and overall wellness. The bottom line is this. If you're not finding ways to get this into your diet on a regular basis, Supergut Shakes would be a good investment for you to easily boost your intake of these resistant starch fibers. To check that out, head to the link in the show notes of this podcast, or you can just head over to supergut.com to check out all of the cool ways they're helping us improve our gut health.
I think it's like looking in the fridge, everything that's at the bottom that we usually skip over anyway, is trying to incorporate more of that stuff, which is usually, honestly, we eat vegetables and fruit and all the things, but it's like, incorporate that. You need to use that. Use that broccoli. Use the peppers. Like
And beans
really,
that's been in the cabinet.
beans. Okay, so a little bit more practical. It's like rice stretches, right?
Yep.
Beans.
Tuna, great source of protein.
Yes,
That
and it's
stretches.
not very expensive.
Yeah, raspberries as a fruit.
Oh, not raspberries though.
Those are expensive.
Yeah, on the scale, I think I don't know. Blackberries kind of.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. I meant blackberries. Yeah,
I'm like
blackberries.
raspberries.
I say that all the time.
Yes.
You should know what I meant. Blackberries,
bananas.
Yeah, apples.
Apples. I mean, we still buy organic apples,
Yeah.
and I want to touch on that in a minute, like
Okay.
kind of the dirty dozen, but we still buy organic apples. What else?
Ground beef.
Yeah.
As a protein source, you can get some chicken. You're gonna get the chicken with the, they might have some hormones pumped in them.
Yeah, we try
But
to.
the cheap chicken, if you're going for carbs, oats. Oats are a good source of, fiber. That's not really a great source of fiber. But anyway, when you ain't got the funds, you don't want to load up on like the wheat bread. If you can afford the oats, that's great. Shoot, what else, man?
Yeah, we used to eat bread like that a lot,
We
but
did.
just knowing better, and we're talking about the sake of, your health.
Right.
I mean, what other sources of protein? I mean, you have peanut butter. If you have some
Peanut
nuts,
butter.
I feel like look in your pantry and see what you have that you
First.
kind of skip over.
Right.
Because like we had a bunch of nuts and stuff before, and it was like, all right, I'm not really eating this all the time, but it's cool now. It becomes an option when you don't really have much else.
That's funny. Yeah.
It looks enticing.
Yeah. It's like, all right, cool. If I don't have the money to get what I want, like when you reframe your perspective on food, it's like, when you think I just need to eat, then everything is fine. Like the other day, right before the kids came home, I was thinking like, okay, well, I know I need to go to the grocery store. We don't have food in the house right now. What can I put together for them real quick? And I grabbed some potatoes and I made some chips out of the potatoes. I roasted with olive oil, salt, pepper. Those potatoes were sitting in there for I don't know how long. And I'm not thinking about those potatoes when I have other more attractive options. Man, once we had to get creative, which is something that you have to do when you don't have access to the money that you need. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna pull some tricks out the bag to make it happen. So yeah, that's the first thing to address when you don't have a lot of money and you want to continue eating healthy. It's like work with what you have. First of all, it's adjust your mindset around food in general, and then also like work with what you've got and get creative and pull out some of the stuff that you've been avoiding for the past few weeks, and cook it. While we're talking about use what you have and like cheap fruits and vegetables that you can buy, you mentioned something about the dirty dozen.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that because when I was at the grocery store yesterday, I was looking at, I think it was blueberries. And I was like, is this one of the things that I need to?
Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember. I just saw a list recently that it had blueberries on there, I believe, for you not to have to buy organic. But I don't know. Just review the Dirty Dozen. It kind of changes a little bit every year. So basically, you can Google the Dirty Dozen, and there's like a list of 12 foods. It might be a little bit more, but that's the tagline they go by. So the Environmental Working Group produces a list every year where it tests the amount of pesticides that are being sprayed on food. And we know that's like a big deal. When you're short on money, you're probably not worried about that. But, we just have a preference when it comes to like apples and, we are aware that like strawberries and blueberries and peppers, and there's a number of other things that are on the list, but I really say just use your judgment, because some of those things, like if your food has something where you can peel it off, you usually don't need to buy organic, like a banana or an avocado,
Right.
Or a pineapple. You don't need to buy those things organic. But when you can, and as your funds start to increase, you can, start to care a little bit more about that area of your health because it's important. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast episode about pesticides and the safety of the food that we're eating.
Yeah, because those things do have an impact on your gut microbiome.
They do for sure.
But you were saying that that's our preference to buy organic fruits and vegetables, especially on that list. But when your funds are limited, like, for example, like ground beef, we prefer to buy grass-fed ground beef for reasons that we shouldn't need to explain. Or maybe we do need to explain on another podcast. But man, the price difference between the grass-fed ground beef and what I guess is grain-fed ground beef is completely different. And I gotta say, oftentimes it is still worth it in comparison to all the other foods you can be eating for you to eat the grain-fed ground beef. The grain-fed ground beef. Because if you're not, well, first of all, it's really important to prioritize protein just in general. So when you're struggling to put meals together, you still want to make sure that you're making protein the priority on your plate. And when it comes to buying organic versus non-organic protein, fruits, vegetables, the staples in your diet, if you can shave off $15, $20, $30 by going for food that's not organic, then you got to do that, because otherwise you're going to eat the really cheap food that is highly processed, the stuff that's in the package that's really cheap. And I have the opinion that the non-organic meats that are available, non-organic meats, fruits, and vegetables, you're going to get a much better return on investment when it comes to your health on those products than you would the cheap, ultra processed packaged products that many of us buy when we're trying to save money. So yeah, there's that. So that is sort of like the mindset that we need to approach, being broke with when we're trying to eat healthy. But I want to go over a few tips that people can kind of like implement when they're trying to stretch their funds a little bit. I can go for the first one while you think about the second one.
Okay.
If you follow me on any of my social platforms, you'll know how much of a fan I am of Levels and the dope people behind it. They're building tech that helps people see how food is affecting their health through continuous glucose monitoring. And I've been personally monitoring my glucose with Levels for over a year now. And look, it has completely changed the way I eat. Let me explain this simply. You have sugar in your blood, which is a primary source of energy. But when the amount of sugar in your blood is spiking all the time and constantly elevated, it can cause some pretty severe health complications. It can also lead to less severe complications like brain fog, always being tired, unstable mood, and even impaired sexual function. You guys, so many of us experience these symptoms on a daily basis and have no idea why. And that's why I love Levels, because they give you a window into your health by showing you how your diet and habits are impacting your glucose levels. I'm a huge advocate of accepting full responsibility for your health, and Levels makes that a lot easier by showing you in real time how your body is metabolizing food. Monitoring my blood sugar helped me see which food I should be staying away from, which ones I should be eating more of, what order to eat my food in, how to structure exercise around my meals, and man, the list goes on. I don't know for sure, but I think you'd learn similar things if you took a peek underneath the hood, and I highly encourage you to do so. And you don't even have to monitor for a year like me. Honestly, just 2 weeks of monitoring your glucose will teach you enough about your body to power new habits for the rest of your life. And yes, I mean the rest of your life. So I'm inviting you to give Levels a try. I left a special link in the show notes for you that'll give you 2 additional months on top of your annual membership. Keep me posted on your experience and let me know if there's anything that I can do to help you along the way. When you're shopping at the grocery store, something that I don't do very often. Actually, this is something that I do often. Keep a running total of your order as you go through the store. I know oftentimes we run in and you don't think that you have a lot of money, so you're going for those quick, ultra-processed items that you know you can afford. But if you keep track of your total as you go through the store, I do this like if I'm going through produce, I'm like $5 here, $2 there, something out there. And what that does is it helps me to prioritize the health promoting foods first. So I start with the vegetables and then I go to protein, eggs, and then I go through I go through the aisles grabbing like, I don't know, staples like tortillas or oats, seasonings or whatever. But starting with the staples first and keeping a running total as you go so that you're not surprised when you go to the register and have to put things back.
Yeah.
We've had to do that before too.
Oh my gosh. So relating to that is like, or summarizing it is kind of like make a list for some people. I feel like,
yeah.
if you can. So sometimes what I would do is whether, money is like abundantly flowing or we're tight on it, whatever. But I just like make a list of a lot of the things that we get normally. And I just put like a dollar amount, like an estimate of what it will be. And then it kind of helps me just overall plan that list out.
Right.
But yes, as you're going through the store, just pull out your phone, and use that calculator. And I'm really good at that. We probably both are, but just kind of coming up with just being within the number that you're trying to get to,
Yep.
if that's your goal. Yeah. That's cool. So my tip, number 2, is also related to the grocery store. And you kind of talked about it a little bit, but it's like staying on the perimeter of the store, as much as possible. So you might have to venture into the aisles if you need to, but really your most nutrient dense food is going to be on the perimeter.
Yep.
Right. So I think that's in general for most stores.
It
So
is. Produce.
you have your produce, yeah. You have your meat. You have your produce and your meat. And if you're getting like some frozen stuff, which is not a bad thing, then you can go into the aisle for that. But it's still generally on the perimeter of the store. You have your eggs, you have your milks and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, the
perimeter.
middle of the store is like trash.
Yeah.
Just so much. It's such a distraction.
Yeah. I have a third tip that you can follow is, and might be slightly controversial to some people. It really depends on the situation, but sometimes you're better off fasting than you are eating trash. Like if you're out and about, one of the things that is easy to take advantage of is free food, right? Like free convenient foods. Like if you're, I don't know, it could be anything really. Or if you're just out and you want to go, like there's only fast food options available and you got like a few dollars, you can get that dollar menu off Wendy's or Burger King. Yeah. You're better off not eating and fasting, which, saying if you're hungry, that's tough. Yeah. I'm not sitting here telling you to starve. But in many cases.
But it's just like if you're out, if you can get to food, just say at home.
Yeah.
Or a healthier option.
Right.
It's like forego that tempting option while you're out.
That's it.
To get to something healthier.
That's it. Yeah. And this obviously relies on you having something healthier at home, which goes back to the first tip in being mindful about your budget when you're shopping and staying on the outside of the aisles. Because with this scarcity mindset, what happens is you don't want to spend all your money at once. You're spending $1 here, $1 there, $1 here. And that results, that looks like being out and about, spending a few dollars on fast food because it doesn't feel as guilty as spending $60 at the store. Yeah. But you spend $5 on this meal. Was it 5 times 6? Was $60? 10.
What? 5 times 6? I'm sorry. And I'm looking at my phone. It's 30, honey.
No. Okay.
Oh.
So instead of spending $60 at the grocery store, you're going to go and get, for 11 days in a row, spend $5 out because you're only spending $5 at a time.
Gotcha.
Instead of spending that $60 at the store.
Yeah.
When you do that, there's this feeling like, okay, I'm not doing something bad because I'm only spending $5. I still got this other $50, $55 that I'm working with. I forgot what my original point was.
It's okay. You were saying to basically forego the tempting options.
Yeah.
While you're out.
To invest in groceries for your house.
Yes.
Instead of trying to nickel and dime your food.
Right.
Like make the investment.
And this looks different for everybody because clearly you talking about $5. That's like you feeding yourself because they ain't gonna get nothing for a family. Right? But it's, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I feel like group hug for everybody.
It's hard, man.
Sometimes, you know? And like I said, we were talking about inflation earlier. Like things have just naturally just gotten more expensive, you know? So, your money doesn't go as far. But so point number 4, I think is we alluded to it earlier about being creative, but just to remind you guys to get creative. Yeah. Like pair some foods together that you didn't think about before.
Give me an example.
One day, this is like kind of trivial, but one day we were out of salsa and I'm like, all right, what can I put on this taco to make it feel like a taco? And so we had a pineapple And that's one of those foods that'll go far. So I cut up a pineapple and it's like, all right, damn, that's my salsa. And it tasted good. So then the next day I probably put pineapple and rice and tuna together, which was a really odd combination.
That's odd.
But it was like, so my whole thing is like kind of sweet and salty.
Right.
So it was a good combination. But just get creative and just, do it. You never know what you'll come up with. And then it'll help you in the long run. Even when your money isn't as tight, now you know other creative options to go to, which will in turn maybe help you save money overall.
Right. Save money and save your health. It's one of the things that we've done in the past is like resort to eating more beans when we're trying to be more budget conscious because they're cheaper. The kids eat them, and it's easy to add into a meal.
And if you're vegetarian,
I guess if you're vegetarian, it's got to be a staple. But that's not a staple for us. But just recently, like when I went to the store yesterday, I was thinking back, like, okay, oh yeah, beans. I ended up buying like 8 cans. I think I bought like 8 cans of beans.
That's funny.
Just to be able to, use as like a flexible, option for high protein, good fiber, carbs, to add into our meals. So number 5, the 5th tip that we would suggest that when you're trying to stretch your funds, when you don't have much, but you still want to be healthy, to me, is include more fiber in your diet if possible. This is going to come from eating things like avocados. Again, I mentioned oats. Even peanut butter has fiber in it. And the reason why is because it slows down the digestion of food. It keeps your blood sugar levels stable. And while your blood sugar levels are stable, it helps you prevent yourself from having cravings all day, which is going to cause you to get grumpy when you can't afford to eat. Or it can cause you to eat up all your food. But beyond that, fiber is also very filling. And the longer that you can go feeling full without thinking about food, then the longer your resources are going to last you. And avocados are pretty cheap too. So find some creative ways to add avocados into the diet to help you feel full all day.
Yeah. Are avocados cheap?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, the cool thing is that you don't always have to use the whole one. The whole avocado. You can usually we'll just cut it in half and save the rest for later, or cut it in half and if you have a spouse or child or whatever.
And put them in the fridge. They'll last longer in there. I think they're going crazy.
Yeah, don't put your avocados next to your bananas unless you need them to get ripe, and then that'll help.
Good tip.
So this is number 6. So my tip is related to the freezer. So one is buy frozen food. It's cool to do. I feel like it doesn't always taste the same. Fresh is definitely better, right?
Sure.
But when we're talking about being healthier, frozen versus canned, I really believe is the better thing. Canned usually has more sodium, things to kind of make the food last. But when it's in the freezer, the process is a little bit different. So you might have to add a little bit extra seasoning, to that food. But then also related to the freezer is, I guess when you have in those moments where you have abundance, freeze your food, your leftovers. This is something that I feel like I actually learned it from your family, and that's not a diss. That's an actual
You call my parents broke?
No, it's just from, them raising 6 kids. For me, it was me and my brother, if he ate the same thing that I did, because he was just older than me. But it's freeze your leftovers, because you never know. It's going to look appealing to you later.
It is going to look appealing to
right?
you later.
You're like, oh, wow. You open the fridge and you're like, oh, I didn't know I had this. The freezer. I'm like, dang, I didn't know I had all this in here. So it's, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit or a lot. Just, try to get in the habit of freezing it, especially before things go bad, some produce and stuff, or just any food that you might feel like has been in the fridge for a long time. Just go ahead and pop it in the freezer so that it can last. You won't have to throw it away.
There you go. Good tip. I like that one. So the 7th and final tip is to ask for help. And that's one of the hardest things to do because your ego gets involved. Nobody likes to bother people, but what you can't do is allow your health to slip. That must be your foundational, non-negotiable. You can't get to the point where you're consistently eating poor quality food while you're waiting for your funds to return back to a place where you can provide for yourself again. So in that gap period where the funds aren't there, ask for help, man. Anybody, it could be neighbors, you know, ain't nobody finna ask their neighbor
All
for
right, I'm
help.
about to say, well, did you ask your neighbor?
I didn't.
Like,
All right, well, let's be realistic. It
but
was,
be open to. I think maybe another way to say that, if asking is difficult, it's like be open to help.
yeah, okay.
And however that comes to you. You
Right,
know,
yeah.
like you can be open to, because if you're not open, then you're shut off. Like it's just not an option. But
Right.
I'm sure that you would rather get help and get what you need than to go without.
100%, yeah. And that's really the point. It's get help and get what you need before you go without. Oh, that's a bar. Cool. All right, so those are the few tips that we have. Remember, you guys, being broke is a mindset. Being broke is real because you do have lack of funds, and many people experience it. And if you haven't yet, maybe one day you will. Hopefully you don't. But it is real. The mindset that comes with it is being desperate. And that's what you want to avoid. You don't want to get into a desperate place in your head that's going to cause you to make bad decisions that are detrimental to your health. We've got a 5-year-old, 4-year-old begging for our attention. So, Fantasia, do you have any final thoughts?
Lots of deep breaths and sunlight. It'll take you far when you're dealing with stress in life.
Yeah, like we are right now.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Culture of Health podcast. We will catch you guys on the next episode.
Yep.